Alright. Hey guys, curdhos here from Hostyle Conditioning. Today I got my good buddy and training partner Pat Barnes here with me. So if he's a little shy, we'll give him a break. Pat and I have been training together every Tuesday pretty much for the last, what, a year?
About a year, yeah.
A year or so and stuff like that. Pat is a bodybuilder, natural bodybuilder. He's done quite well, although I'm talking about himself a little bit because who doesn't like to talk about themselves?
Wow.
And of course I'm a powerlifter. And we've been training together, like I said, for over a year, and it's a bit of an experiment I wanted to do early on, because there's always that debate, you know, bodybuilding, powerlifting can't be the same, so different, and I've always maintained, quite honestly, they should be a pretty similar sport.
Yeah.
You know, the biggest difference between the two is, in my opinion, is a little bit of training methodology and nutrition. As a powerlifter, you know, back in my days when I was 390, you know, I used to kid myself I had to be big to be a powerlifter. Well, you know, big is good, but big and fat was useless. And that's been a bit my quest for the last year and a half to 2 years to get leaner. This year, as you guys see on my last New Year's resolution video, with my weekly weigh-ins, my goal is to get down to 275. Part of it is because I want to be a better powerlifter, a fitter, a more athletic powerlifter, but at the same token, I want to be leaner. You know, there's no reason to be 100 pounds overweight. And I'm seeing it already in performance. There's a little bit of difference sometimes in recovery and immediate strength training, but overall at 43, 320 I think my last weigh-in, and hopefully go under that this week, or 325, sorry. You know, feeling good, definitely doing a little bit different training, but the biggest difference that I'm doing is just the way I'm eating. I'm eating more often, I'm eating like a bodybuilder. I'm eating the 6 meals a day. I've got my protein intake nice and high, which I've always recommended, but I'm really working on the carbs. I don't believe in zero carbs, but I do work on my carb rotation, basically allowing my carbs early on in the morning for a couple of meals till I hit a max of the first 2 or 3 meals, and then switch over to protein and fats in the afternoon with lots of veggies to keep the fat burning process going. And Pat, what have you found since you've been doing more of the powerlifting type training with you?
What I found is it really bridged the gap between the bodybuilding and the powerlifting with a few adjustments that I made. But the biggest change is just my overall thickness and density. It's unparalleled to anything before in my life. And I wouldn't have believed it before I tried it. I mean, me and Curd, we talked about it for
a while.
6 months to a year, and I was a disbeliever. I was like, it can't be true. And finally one day I put my hands in his hands, and we started powerlifting, but I had some, let's say, I didn't want to leave bodybuilding in terms of my training. I want to kind of bridge the gap between both worlds. And I found for me that that was the ultimate change, and it just triggered the fibers in my body, and my body has changed and never been the same since. I've just exploded in the past year. And it's only once a week, Tuesday, that we were doing this, but it extended to everything that I did. It extended into my mentality, how I was training, and it really, really, really pushed me to new levels. And I can't say enough about it. Like, I can't wait to go back on stage with this new look, this new body, this new attitude. And I totally swear by, you know, instead of the worlds of powerlifting and bodybuilding, kind of they're separate corners, for me, I need both.
And I agree. I think, you know, for myself as well too, working on the better conditioning or the bodybuilding aspect, you know, you hear it say how abs are made in the kitchen. It's totally true for sure. But I mean, I think the two worlds, as he said, shouldn't be so far apart, and they should probably overlap 50%, if not more. You know, bodybuilders going under 6 reps is a cardinal sin. Workouts under an hour and a half is a cardinal sin. And you know what? There's more and more studies coming out and showing that intensity is where it's at. And you know, what we do downstairs, I mean, our average workouts are anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes. And I mean, we're working hard, as you can see, we're sweating, that kind of, and all we did down there was we did some bench. I chain bench, he worked on some max benching and stuff, and then when we got to our max point, stripped the weight down, did a bunch of reps, you know, call that a bit of bodybuilding style, if you will, get a little bit of blood flow in there, and blood pump. But I mean, the whole idea is we get in there, we work out hard, we work super intense, and then we get out of dodge. And that can be said no matter what training you're doing, whether it's, for us, we do a lot of kettlebells and conditioning here, but even in the bodybuilding world, you know, there's a lot to be said for hitting, I don't care if it's leg extension, and stack it, and just every 6 reps drop the weight and do a crazy drop down set. Well, that's intensity training. But I also think there's a time where, you know, you need to work singles and triples, but even in powerlifting, where I see a lot, it's always singles, always doubles, there's a time for 12s and 20s and 8s. And I think that's the thing, is that, you know, you have to get over the fact that bodybuilders should only train a certain way and powerlifters should only train a certain way. It's really, if the two of them overlap what they know and put it together, you get what they call a hybrid trainer. You get a guy who's thicker, you get a guy who's stronger, and you get a guy who's leaner overall. Right? For me, as I get leaner through the hips, in the midsection, my hips rotate better through increased mobility. I arch better on a bench. I'll deadlift better in a sumo position. Right? Mechanically, I can move better because there's a lot less gut sticking around and stuff like that. So that makes a huge difference overall. For Pat, I mean, the density that I've seen, I mean, through his sweater and stuff like that, you know, the biggest thing I think Pat got after about a third or fourth week out is he looking in the mirror and you couldn't believe how pumped his traps were from benching. And again, I've always said, you know, a good bench, it works the back and dries off the traps and the upper shoulders and such. So stabilizing that weight, moving through it, it's an incredible isolation type exercise, but it's done inside a compound movement. So look at strong benchers. Their traps are thick, their shoulders are thick, there's no way around it. Pat, you know, I know when he's walking around the gym, he's getting comments all the time. Well, man, what are you doing? What's all, you know, it's crazy the difference stuff. And then when he tells them, they literally don't want to believe you.
No, they don't want to believe it. They don't believe that I could do so little and get so much out of it. And I'm like, I tell them I wouldn't believe it myself until I tried it. And it took me a lot of convincing to try it. But when I look back at it, I look at a powerlifter, and powerlifters do, what, 3 major lifts. And but when you look at them, the traps are exploding, the tris are on fire, the chest is out. And I was like, there's got to be a degree of truth to what they're doing. So I had to change what I was doing, because condition on stage was not an issue for me. I can get condition, I can look big, but I didn't look thick. I didn't look dense, I didn't look beefy until I did the change that I made. And once again, I go to the gym, people will ask me, well, what are you doing? And I say, I'm doing bench press. I'm doing sets of 3. I'm doing triples, doubles, singles. They don't believe me. You got to be doing more. But I'm not. And it's amazing the change that has come because of it.
And I think that you're saying to carry over to your other training is cool, because once you learn that heavy, intense feeling, then it carries over automatically by default into an isolation move, whether you're doing a chin-up for back, or you're doing, you know, a move for legs, or even if you're getting on the cable crossover, you're going to learn what a heavy, intense feeling feels like, and then you're going to start wanting to acquire that in all your other exercises. It's going to work deeper into your muscle fiber. It's going to work to burn more calories. You're going to get a lot more done. And you know, even with us as a powerlifter goes, compared to most powerlifters, and Pat, you know, he sees a lot of powerlifters as well too in the gym. You know, I don't take a lot of breaks between sets. You know, that's one thing because of my conditioning that I'm doing up here. You know, in the time it takes a lot of average powerlifters to do one set, I'm on my 4th set and performing well. Not to the point where the excuse, oh, well, if I take too long a break, too short a break, I'm not going to be able to get that next set. I agree if your conditioning is a factor, but because I work on my conditioning outside of the powerlifting, when I do kettlebells and conditioning training, let's say up in the upper level here, it's making me tougher, fitter, and increasing my cardio capacity. So going down there, rifling out a heavy set of triples or 5s or singles or even 10s, I'm ready to go within 60 seconds. Because a lot of times when I'm doing up here, it's 5 to 8 to 10 minute long cycles. So in comparison, it's a lot easier to, you know, a lot less intense for me to rest 60 seconds and drive it all. But I mean, that's an adaptive thing, and because of that, my hardness has increased, my thickness has increased, and my leanness is increasing. And again, for me, as long as I keep watching the calories, as far as not counting them, but eating really clean every day, 6 days a week, 6 meals a day, sorry, just finished the workout, the brain's a little tired, blood here, not up there. You know, as long as I get that 6 meals a day, 2 shakes, 4 solid meals, high protein, high quality food, nutrient dense food. So I'm eating like broccolis, and I'm eating the cauliflowers, and I'm eating chicken, and I'm eating beef, and I'm eating all those good things. And I've got good sources of carbs in the morning, like a bodybuilder does, eating sweet potato, eating brown rice, eating raw oatmeal, or long cooked oatmeal, whatever. Those are the quality carbs. And once a week, it's a cheat night where I get to do whatever I want and stuff. And as you guys see, every Thursday, so far I'm dropping the weight, and I'll be up this Thursday again, or down hopefully, but I'll be shooting the video. And again, the moment the progress stalls, then I look back. What's not happening, right? What am I doing wrong during the week? What didn't I do during the week that I'm supposed to do? Because it's not a surprise, it's not a miracle, it's not magic, right, if your strength is increasing. It's not magic if you're not getting leaner. You're doing something wrong. Either you're not doing something consistently, or you're omitting something that has to be done. Same thing, you know, a steady state. You know, bodybuilders love to get on the treadmill and do steady state. You know, as a powerlifter and trying to get better condition, I'm on that treadmill every day for half an hour. But I'm not running, I'm not jogging, I'm doing a 5 out of 10 exertion, and it's just to keep the metabolic rate up. It helps me heal. I did 3 workouts yesterday. It's the first time in a long time I've done 3 workouts. And that steady state this morning just loosened me up, got me going. So when I went down and benched, you know, half an hour later, I was able to do a good bench. I wasn't all stiff and sore. So from an athletic point of view, that's something that's really cool that bodybuilders initially I think got onto because they want to maintain leanness, but at the same time it helps recovery overall. So I really think it's unfortunate that the worlds want to stay so separated. I think people that are in the profession of coaching and doing personal training really need to expand their knowledge base into more what's up in bodybuilding, what's up in powerlifting, and really look at things and play with it and stuff like that. And bottom line, the biggest thing in both sports is hard work. Yeah. Right? We were just talking about that earlier today with some different clients and different people we see in the gym. You know, they're working out, they think they're working out, and they are working out, but that if they hook up with Pat or me for a workout, for a session, they're blown away by the intensity and how hard they have to work, right? Yeah. But that's what you have to do to force the body to change. Right? I often jokingly say, you know, no one gets, you know, 3 inches of chest on the cable crossover. Yeah. Because, I mean, yeah, it's a cool finishing move and you get a blood flow and a blood pump and stuff like that. But let's be honest, neuromuscular and central nervous system stress and strain on that exercise isn't enough to make any changes whatsoever. And, you know, one thing I think Pat's really taken away from the method of powerlifting that I use for chest and upper body, it's not 5 chest exercises. It's 1 chest exercise, sometimes a shoulder thrown in or maybe a tricep, and you are done, you are cooked. And not just cooked energy-wise, those body parts are done, right? So there's days where we just press, and there's days where we press and throw in an assistance, whether it's dumbbells or close grip or band pushdowns or even just normal pushdowns for volume, 6 sets of 10 or 12 with only a minute rest. A lot of times it's he go, I go, you know, that kind of thing. So, and that's the cool thing I see a lot more in bodybuilding that we need to see a little bit more powerlifting is that intensity factor overall as far as the short rest periods and driving it forward. So I really think the two camps have a lot to benefit from each other, and you know, we're like the proof, man.
Yeah, and just to take it a step further, I think that was part of the reason why I often stayed away from powerlifting training was because I was always saying to Curd, you know, I can't do a lift and then do a lift in 10 minutes. I'm just cold. I'm done. And so when we started this and Curd was telling me, well, you don't have to do that. And I was like, but that's all I've seen from powerlifters. Mm-hmm. And nothing against that, but for me, it just doesn't work. And we started this thing where we just have very little rest in between, enough rest to still lift maximum, but I found that I wasn't lacking in strength. I could still lift maximum lifts, getting maximum results. So I lost nothing, but I gained time. I spent minimum time in the gym with maximum results.
Absolutely.
And to me, that is the ultimate of what anyone's looking for, because if you are trying to achieve your goals, you want to spend as little time in that gym as possible, because you know you spend 6, sometimes 7 days a week in that gym, sometimes twice a day. Curd just said he did 3 workouts in a day. Mm-hmm. So we know that we want to spend as little time as possible to get the maximum results. And that's what I found with doing it this way, was that I could still lift like a powerlifter, but rest like a bodybuilder. And I found that just mixed both worlds. The only adjustments that I felt that I had to make was actually in my diet also. I felt like that I had to make sure, like as a bodybuilder, I kind of can eat where I eat just enough to survive till the next meal. Mm-hmm. But I found lifting as a powerlifter, because there's so much stress on the nervous system, that I had to put in a little more carbs and stuff during my workouts to make sure I have enough energy to push out what I want to push out, knowing my body's going to use that energy anyways. It's not going to store it as fat, and I didn't have to worry about it. That was the major difference in my meal intake. But I found, again, my body fat was consistent, my body fat was at a good range, and I was lifting heavier, more, thus getting more dense, more thick, more results.
And with the more lean muscle mass, I mean, how much do you think you've gained in this last year training this
Lean muscle mass?
Yeah.
Oh. What can I say?
Conservatively.
Conservatively? Wow.
15?
At least.
At least 15 pounds of mass. And what's cool with that is that the moment he starts dialing his diet in just a little tighter for the next bodybuilding show he's going to do, he's got 15 more pounds of mass, of muscle, which is going to increase his overall metabolic rate. So that means he's going to burn calories even at a higher rate. He's going to get leaner quicker because he's got more furnace to burn all those calories and stuff. And that is the magic bullet. I mean, when I've seen in powerlifting and bodybuilding, I see these guys that walk around 230 and they walk on stage at a $150, $152, and I don't think they were fat to begin with. So I guarantee you, of the 50 pounds, 60 pounds they lost, 20 to 35 pounds of that is muscle. And to me, the art and sport of bodybuilding is hanging on to that muscle tissue, right? So I think that's the other thing too, is that things have to be a little more gradual, and that's what I've always respected about bodybuilding, is those that do well are very good at being meticulous and consistent with their nutritional intake. And to me, that is a true challenge, especially when you're not used to it. Once you learn the steps to do it, it really is steps, then it's a lot easier than you would ever think. But it's to get into that and do it and be patient. But to me, that's the thing I probably held the most respect for bodybuilding, is that attention to detail. And powerlifters, if they have that attention to detail, tend to do really well too. So I think putting them together, I think there's no reason why we can't see a lot of 240-pound bodybuilder powerlifters that can compete in 2 events a year, can go to bodybuilding for 6 months and go to powerlifting for the next 6 months, right? And they get the best of both worlds overall. And I think we're going to see more of that as people get more into realizing that strength and conditioning, right? And bodybuilding is like the ultimate in conditioning, right? Maximizing leanness. Now, there's always a thing where some bodybuilders are so lean, but they don't do it through conditioning training, they do it through just diet alone, so they're out of breath going up a flight of stairs. I think that needs to be improved too, because I think a better conditioned athlete, like a bodybuilder who is lean, but also in better conditioning, meaning better cardio, better endurance, their muscle mass is going to have a different look to it as well too. It's going to have a more capable look. Look at some of these MMA guys that are out there. I mean, some of them can walk on stage. Yeah, so it's like the epitome of conditioning, meaning they're lean, but also leanness, but as well as functionality. They're strong in their endurance, and they can do a crap load of stuff, right? And again, you'll see that next time you go to a bodybuilding show, and you really look at it, you'll be able to tell what bodybuilder is actually tougher and fitter than the other one. They're both going to be lean, but there's a different look to them overall. And I think that's another thing that Pat's going to be able to bring to it this year too, because of the intensity training we do here, and what he's, by default bringing to the rest of his training. He's just a better machine, a tougher machine, and it's going to show dramatically on it and stuff. And I think it's really cool.
Yeah. And when we mentioned that I probably gained 15 pounds of lean muscle mass, I know a lot of you guys watching are going to say, well, that's unheard of. All the books say 2 to 3% a year and this and that. And that might be true, but all I can say is the proof's in the pudding. That's all I can say.
I think it's true based on the way they're training in those books. Yeah. Right? That's the thing, right? I think going to this heavy, intense training, working super hard, that makes a huge difference overall. It just gives the body no choice. It has no choice but to adapt. Yeah. And that's all powerlifting, I want to say powerbuilding. Yeah. That's all powerlifting and bodybuilding really are, is adaptation to the environment and stress you put it through, right? So all I'm saying, if we can marry the two of them together, we'll have overall leaner athletes, thicker athletes, and more functional athletes. So anyway, I've been wanting to do this video for a while. I want to get Pat on for a while. He's a great training partner, and he knows his stuff really well. He's a phenomenal bodybuilder, and he knows the diet part and just the the nuances for bodybuilding. And now he's even more armed with knowledge based after the last year of this heavy, intense training. So I really wanted to talk to the two camps out there and say, guys, work together. Right?
Let's get together.
Awesome. Curdhos from Hostyle Conditioning. Thanks for calling, watching.